greatest players are not going to be playing at home again.
There's so much hype in and around this game. It just comes off the back of such great performances that we've seen this year from the All Blacks.
Now Bell hands it wide for Tyre, and here's a chance. Got a Betty.
And the worrying thing for the All Blacks is they haven't even touched the ball.
Swings it wide this time for Hooper. Looking to hold him up, and he's got the try. What a half it has been from the Wallabies. Now Christie gets it wide, McKenzie. Stevenson in the corner.
Come on, DeWiggy, outstanding.
Finau getting close. Try scores on debut. Richie Mo'unga. Up it goes. Over. All Blacks win.
Oh, amazing comeback from the All Blacks.
Tēnā koutou katoa, good evening. Welcome into the breakdown. Well, there are fresh injury concerns for the All Blacks, Brodie Retallick and Braden Ennor. But just how bad are these injuries with the Rugby World Cup opener just 33 days away and the squad announcement? The 33 that will represent the All Blacks at the Rugby World Cup will be named live tomorrow on the breakdown at 5 p.m. So who's played their way in, who's played their way out? We discuss it all in afternoon rugby down in Dunedin. Jeff Wilson, Sir John Kerwin and Mills Muliaina. How did you three all pull up today after an afternoon match?
I just have to tell you that my responses will be going through you tonight because I'm not talking to these two.
This is what happens when you have an afternoon game.
Well, you went really dog. Once we said you're Ian Foster,
Hold on.
Jason Ryan, and I'm Joe Smith, and we started putting our team down, you just went like all
Hold on.
narcissistic. You started
If I am
saying,
Ian
I've got the last call.
If I am Ian Foster, I'm smiling right now because I'm undefeated in 2023. And I'm just sitting there, I was challenging you guys to come up with your very best.
You wouldn't tell us your last two players.
I got to 33 and then I decided it'd take me another 24 hours.
That's the 32.
OK, look, let's start from the start, though. Let's talk about Dunedin first and foremost, because if you're going to play a test match in the afternoon, why not do it in Dunedin? Perfect. Because
it's the warmest I've ever been.
It's the warmest. You enjoyed it because
Delightful.
you weren't quite as cold, but it was a remarkable atmosphere down there. There was so many kids around. It was a fantastic occasion, a great way to send this team off, because that's what it was for the public towards the Rugby World Cup.
Yeah, a lot of celebration, wasn't it? And also, I suppose, the match, given the fact, the All Blacks came back, we won, the way they'd sort of won, some of the younger players been put under pressure, but also nice and hard and fast track out there at JK. I mean, some of the skill level from both teams was actually outstanding.
It always is down there. That roof has been it's always a good game of rugby when you think back to all the test matches.
Yeah, but I think being an afternoon test match, Kirsty, JK, Mills, it changed the dynamic of who was going. All of a sudden, there was more kids than I've seen in an All Black test for a long, long time. And we saw the day before at the Octagon, there's a real enthusiasm around this team right now. They've started launching some fantastic campaigns of bringing, I think, the community back in and closer to the team, and we experienced that in Dunedin.
Ian Foster said after the game he was stoked with that win, given what they came through. What sort of mental strength can you gain from a game like that, Mills?
Oh, huge. I mean, considering they were down, 14 points at half-time, right? They weren't getting their set piece right. They're getting penalised off the park. The tackles, they made so many tackles. To come out in the way they did in that second half and really start to nail those things, get their game together. I mean, they were feeding off scraps in that first half, weren't they? They were making a lot of mistakes, so they weren't able to get into that sort of flow. That would have been pleasing for Ian Foster to come out and those guys really perform.
Yeah, like for me, it reminded me a lot of the pre-2015 World Cup, when that side, some days would have, like last weekend, they'd have 10 minutes and they'd put 25 points on. Yesterday you thought, they're down and out. It's not our day. They're down 14 odd points, and then they just make a few changes, stay patient, come back. And I thought that, I mean, you walk away, to answer your question, Chris. Foster, walks away going, how good is that?
We had 9 starting players not playing in this game. All right, so it was always going to be difficult for the group that went out there to start this test match. And remember, they're playing against a full-strength Wallaby side. That was the best team that Eddie Jones had fit and available to play against the All Blacks, because he knew it was important for them to get a performance. Now, they probably deserved a draw out of that game. Yeah. If you think about the way that they played and what they did deserve a draw. Honestly, they were the better team clearly in the first half, and they were in control of the contest. They got it to a point where they made some mistakes in the second half. The big thing for me is that everyone talks about the bench today, about how good the bench were. Aaron Smith, Richie Wonga, they come on and they were very, very good. But at the start of the second half, it was still the group from the first half that had to go and deliver. They changed the momentum. They shifted the landscape for the teams to come on and finish it. And in terms of getting the perfect opportunity and dress rehearsal for a tight game in a Rugby World Cup, that was it.
But I also think you can't underestimate the sort of preparation that's involved in this. A lot of guys haven't played. You look at the day game that you're talking about. It's sort of your prep goes out the window because they're so used to preparing for a night. So the night before you stay up a little bit later, you wake up sort of a little bit later during the day. But all of a sudden, when you're playing the day, well, at 2:30, the day comes around a lot faster. So perhaps for Ian Foster, they have to start considering sort of what that sort of effect had on the guys, particularly in that first half.
What did we learn from that 80-minute performance? Did we learn that Sam Whitelock has to be a starter for the All Blacks, JK?
I thought he was outstanding. One critical turnover in the first half, two massive ones in the second half. There was a couple of players that I felt really, really stepped up. For me, he was one of them. He was always calm. I was down on the sideline behind it and I was watching him in particular, always calm, always saying the right things. And those turnovers were massive. And when you're a young guy, right, you look around and you see Sam Whitelock just saying, it's all right, let's stay composed, we need to do this, we need to do that. Like, it would give you the confidence to go, we're going to be fine.
Three big moments in the game, and one of them, I know Artie was the one that sort of got over and sort of held that ball up, but Sam Whitelock was the guy that actually turned him onto his back, and that was desperation because McDermott was gone for all money, made a tackle, flipped him over, and that's what allowed Artie to get over. I mean, that's just experience here, isn't it?
And what we know today is that there's an injury cloud hanging over Brodie Retallick. The fact that Guzzler could be out for a period of time. He might miss some time at the start of the Rugby World Cup. We don't know that for certain. That's coming out, and we'll find out in the next 24 hours before they name their squad. So, but what it means is now that luxury of us having the three, now Sam Whitelock just easily goes alongside of Scott Barrett.
No, I'm just going back to how we haven't discussed, you said that it deserved to be a draw.
Move on from that.
I can't.
Move on from that, because what's important is that
Stefan scored. He scores that. I thought we were going to crack.
He didn't score, did he?
No, he didn't score.
Just on the Brodie Retallick, for any of those asking what's going on, 4 to 6 weeks is what we're hearing. That is the reports right now. 4 to 6 weeks on his knee injury. Came off, of course, very early on. And Braden Ennor, who lasted, just less than a half, sounds a bit more serious for him with his knee injury. Could be ruled out for the tournament, but we'll know more tomorrow. Of course, we'll be live from Napier for the All Blacks squad announcement. Well, it was a very emotional day in Dunedin yesterday for some of the new players and for the old heads.
How good, mate. Last one on home soil. Yeah, no, it's good, Wheels. It's a bit emotional, but just try to put the emotion aside. Just proud, mate. It was a really good effort. And yeah, just pretty grateful to be able to finish New Zealand like that. What's the actual Dane Coles like behind closed doors? Is he as pesty as what he is on the field?
If we wind back the clock, it was head-eye tackles when we were playing touch.
For you as mates, seeing his journey and being witness to it, how proud are you, lads?
He's got to live the dream for us, if that makes sense. So, as kids, we all dream of being All Blacks, and for him to do it, it's just, I can't explain the words that that it means to us as mates. But he's done us all proud. He's done his family proud. He's done his partner proud, Smeegs, and we're all quite tight. And it's wicked to be part of it.
I got my debut down here. The whole family comes down. They've been every step of the way with me through the ups and the downs, and a lot of tears, if I was ever going to get there and whatnot. So I'm just grateful, man, to get that first cap and to do it with, not all my family's here, but most of them are here, and even some close mates. It's special, man.
New Zealand itself holds a very special place in my heart. This country's given me a lot of opportunities, through footy, but also at the same time as who I am as a man. And to perform, out here on home soil for one last time, really meant a lot out there, putting that black jersey. So yeah, our family's a massive backbone into, I guess, our culture, and You know, this year's a special year of World Cup, and with the bench thing we're releasing around New Zealand, you know, our families, you know, exactly our definition of our bench, and to have them on the field, I guess celebrating a good win and also connecting with each other. Meeting new partners, new family members is quite special, and it's something, you know, we really enjoy having.
Oh, that was such a beautiful, beautiful story. The start of the All Blacks career for a couple of players, and the end is in sight for some others, isn't it, JK?
Yeah, I always remember getting in the side and the team was quite old. Like I was 19 and everyone was 28, 29. You know, Andy Hayden, who turned out to be a great mate, rest his soul, you know, Andy Dalton, Gary Knight. And for me, they were legends of the game. I used to be sitting in front of the TV watching them play. And that's what it would be like, you know, for Sean Stevenson, getting to play a test match where you're under the pump and Sam Whitelock steals, you know, balls under pressure. You remember it for the rest of your life, Mills.
Yeah, 100%. And also, the guys that are moving on, I mean, how special is that story? You know, the last time they played on New Zealand saw their families, but also to bring the whole of New Zealand with them, because there's a bigger, I suppose, tournament you know, coming up in a few more weeks. So even that is pretty special in itself.
Well, it was a big 80 minutes, wasn't it? Because it was the last chance for some players to show exactly what they've got, and the first for others, for these selectors before they name the team tomorrow. Jeff, if we look at who stood out, who had the biggest impact that needed to, was it Sammy Penny-Finau? Did he surprise you?
No, it didn't surprise me. It was just a matter of whether he'd get the opportunity before they were naming the side, and this was the opportunity for him, and he really grew into the game. Look, he made a couple of errors earlier on, got penalised for going off his feet, but then all of a sudden he got himself into the game with the things he was successful at during Super Rugby, which is ability to carry the ball, and then his work at contact, and then defensively all of a sudden he had a bigger impact. If I look at his performance, Mills, and he's put himself not just in the conversation, I think he's going now on the back of that performance and what we might need. I don't want to jump to the gun because we're going to talk about the side later on, but I think for me, we saw enough there, enough to like. I want to see him there.
Oh, I definitely think he goes now. It's so easy. I mean, we talk about your first cap, right? It's so easy. You're under the pump. You're up against a quality side. It's easy just to hide back and go, hey, I don't want to touch this. I don't want my hands on the ball. Give it to someone else. Let's rely on. He didn't, you know. And so he really stood up. He'd made a few mistakes early on, but that's what I liked about it. His confidence to be able to say, no, I'll put my hand up, and I really want to show this team that I can lead, you know, with ball carries.
I think what we're seeing is a style of play that this particular selection committee want, not these two, the real ones. You know, for me, you've seen, you know, Ioane there, and he's more a number 8 that plays 6. You know, he's got steps, but you know, they're very similar. Finau and Frizzell are similar. They're raw-boned. They work hard. You know, you need them to take it up. You know, Retallick doesn't have to keep caping up Whitelock. You've got these guys, and I thought he was outstanding yesterday. Made a couple of first test errors, but I saw him step, and like we were down on the sideline, and he accelerated, and he's a big man with real big acceleration, and he likes to hit people. So I think he'll just grow into that role, and I think I sort of call it gone from economy to business class, so he's in.
We know the squeeze is going to be on the outside backs. What about Lester Fainga'anuku?
Yeah, another big shift yesterday. He just brings, you know, something totally different. When they started to get some momentum, particularly around the rucks, you know, he was in there. He showed that also during, you know, Super Rugby. It just sparks little wee things. You know, it almost becomes that extra sort of Lucy in terms of, you know, his ability to get over that sort of game line. But I thought he was active also, coming off his wing, showing his face a little bit on the right-hand side. So I think my team, or our team, guys, Mr. Fainga'anuku goes.
Look, I think that once again, he's a player who showed exactly the way that he plays the game, and he put it to the next level. Yep. So his form was great through Super Rugby. That's what we had to go back to. He picks up an injury. We don't see him till this game. And I would say he took his opportunity by showing the strength that he had and his ability to carry the ball through contact, his involvements. I mean, he'll still look at some of the defensive things and like to maybe make some better decisions around that, JK. But I think all of a sudden, when you had to choose, you've got to choose him between other players to compare, and this unfortunate injury to Braden Ennor, who was probably competing against, it has opened a door. Now it's just the balance of the side and whether they need him to cover the 13 jersey. Yes. Do they trust him to be that guy, Sir John Kirwan? I'm not sure. But on the back of that performance, he couldn't probably have done anything more in that game to show he wants to be on the plane.
Does he go into the starter? So he's a big man with beautiful feet. Mills had beautiful feet. And when you got people coming late and you're stepping, it looks like 3 yards on television, but you talk to the tight 5, and that 3 yards that he gets you over the advantage line can get you a roll on, and someone scores on the other side. And I thought he did that brilliantly yesterday. So for me, it's Caleb that I'm it's Caleb, Leicester. I think the other two, Mark Tilley is already there, Sean Stevenson. So for me, he's on the plane now.
Hold on, is Sean Stevenson there for you?
I don't think so. I mean, Sean early, defensively everyone used to take the mickey out wide, wingers, but angles are really, really hard. And Sean plays fullback most of the time, and he just got a couple of early angles wrong. He got ahead of his defender in that first try, Mills, and it's not easy. The thing I liked about Sean Stevenson was he stuck at it, and he got better, and he didn't lose his confidence. He had a crack in the second half. He nearly opened them up early in the first half. So, it was a hard night from early, but he stayed composed and he recovered it. I don't think he's done enough to get on the plane, though.
Potentially a future All Black, if not an All Black for now then, Mills. He hasn't done his case any harm for next year?
No, definitely not. And you've got to remember, he got brought in. He wasn't actually in the original squad. So he's been exposed to the environment. A lot of guys are moving on as well. He's had a good Super Rugby campaign. His consistency in terms of what he's... The downside for him is there's just so many quality outside backs. I mean, these guys that are missing out, man, we're going to have some classy players missing.
Did you like Will Jordan at fullback?
I like the way he sort of went about it. I mean, Will Jordan, isn't he? Regardless of where he plays on the wing or at fullback, he's there every day. But in terms of the makeup going forward, I think Bowden's still our best bet there.
Well, there was one clutch moment to separate that game, so it wasn't a draw. It was a win for the All Blacks. This is our Musashi Power Play for today, available at Chemist Warehouse, and it is the Iceman, Richu Mo'unga, Jeff.
Yeah, well, look, you want your best players to step up in the biggest moments, and he said some wonderful things after the game, and the fact that his expectation was that he was entirely comfortable with this responsibility. He felt it was going to go over. That's his job. He knows his job. But we're seeing a confidence out of this young man now as a player in 2023. I don't think we've seen ever in the All Black jersey. For him to come on and to not just make this kick, but to drive the team back to a point where they could win, the decision-making before that, the way they started controlling territory and they kept building momentum. I think for me, it's possibly one of the biggest disappointments I will have post this year.
You know what that is?
What is that?
That's a curveball. So I'm going to give you a curveball.
What's the curveball?
Right? Do you think he's more relaxed because he's signed overseas?
No, I just think he knows who he is in an All Black jersey now.
Maturity.
I think he owns... Yeah. We talked about this all season, about the keys to the car, Mills, and he owns those now. Yeah. And he is completely comfortable with that. I'm just bitterly disappointed that we're not going to see it after this Rugby World Cup and it's heading offshore.
Voce di corridoio?
Oh, it's been a while.
Or are you just starting one?
Apparently you can get him out of it.
Would
I
you?
made that up, Mr.
You made that up.
Well, you're the king of Japan, JK. If anyone knows,
sorry, guys.
you would know.
Everyone were like, is he right?
Can't get out of it, sorry.
But remarkable for me, Mills. If you look at him, he's in complete control of his game right now.
Well, this is the thing that we're not privy to that goes on behind the closed doors, right, in terms of the leadership stuff. He's been absolutely handed that confidence from his coaches to say, hey, this is your team. And you've seen it when he came on. You could almost see that sort of confidence in him, that he was nice and composed. He said a few things, and then they started to get a bit of that roll on. So that goes into makes a massive difference in terms of the way he feels that he's not competing against someone else, and that's unfortunately what was sort of happening with him and Bowden, right?
I have not heard all season who's the best 10. We walk through airports, right, and New Zealanders will come up to you and say, who's the best? Is it Barrett and Wonga? And I haven't heard that because I actually think we've settled on 10 and 15, right? And it'll be Bowden or Will. That's going to be the next discussion.
Well, we may have decided who the best 10 is, but people still keep asking who are the best starting locks for the All Blacks. This guy did himself no harm yesterday. Sam Whitelock with KT and Joey.
Sammy, fantastic win for the lads. For you, being back amongst the mixer, how were the lungs?
Yeah, I must admit, playing here, you always know the lungs are going to get tested, and I got out here earlier today and I was like, okay, she's hard, it's going to be fast, and it's exactly what we got this first couple of minutes. We were heaving, and full credit to Aussie, they just played on top of us and didn't let us breathe.
You and Brodie Retallick last time that you two, great partnership, world-class partnership, played over 100 tests together, will don the Silver Fern on New Zealand soil. Was it alluded to during the week? What were the emotions between you two? Did you have a quiet word behind closed doors?
We're probably a little bit boring, eh? We don't really talk about that stuff too much, but I think it's something, I got asked about it yesterday, and I hadn't really thought too much about it throughout the week, but it's kind of sinking in now, like seeing everyone's kids run around. The Coles kids are running an absolute muck out there, so...
Standard.
Yes, very standard. So I think it'll sink in a little bit later, but I don't think until that next time the All Blacks play at home, I think that's when it'll really sink in, and probably a bit of emotion then.
On your relationship, you two, you're obviously both world-class locks, and we've been so lucky to have you as part of this All Black side for so long. How does the relationship work? Who's maybe the alpha dog, or what are you in the relationship? What do you both bring to that amazing locking pairing?
Oh, we're definitely different. It's quite interesting watching us in a team meeting. I get probably a little bit bored, so I have to write everything down. Otherwise, I'll probably try to hijack the meeting, where Brodie will sit there and probably write 3 things down. So it just shows that you just got to be you, and that's the best thing about Guz and I getting out there. He goes out there and plays his game, and I do mine, and hopefully both games complement each other, and I think we're better when we're both out there. And looking back, it's been a long time. I think 2012 was the first time we all played together at Eden Park, so looking forward to a few more yet, so not getting too sentimental just yet.
I want to talk to you about the line-out in particular. Talk me through the first half. There's a couple of times they challenged you there, and how did you rate it?
Yeah, we're a little bit shaky at the start. A couple of options didn't really work, and it's just test footy. Teams adapt and change how they're playing, and I thought we kind of got better as the game went on. I think when we actually finally got into a couple of driving sets, we actually engaged a bit more and gave our backs a bit more space to play with.
For you were very vocal in those team talks, especially in that first half when the team wasn't functioning that well. What was the messaging that you were relaying to your troops?
It's pretty easy. You guys know, you've been out there. It's actually just trusting our system, trusting what we've been talking about all week, and just actually going out there and doing it. Rugby is a complex game if you want it to be, or you can keep it really simple. And I think we play our best when we are playing simple rugby. And I'm talking about that, like our intent's good, our tackle selection's good, and then obviously our attack flows from that. So that's what we didn't do in the first half, and I thought we were better in the second.
Not all locks are simple though, KT. Not all locks are simple.
Hey, you're
a lock, Lucy, weren't you?
Hey, some are very simple, aren't they, Sammy?
Yeah, that's what I was looking for. Yeah.
There were a few comments about your spelling, but I won't go there at all. So.
Average, absolutely average. No one can understand that.
Yeah.
Hey,
we stick together.
They stick together. Hey, the lock's time. Hey, congratulations on the win. Go and enjoy it, my man. Cheers, brother.
Well done, mate. Well done.
So professional, but a little bit of personality there from Sam Whitelock. That guy is in. There is never any question marks about him, but are there now question marks around some others after yesterday's performances? There were a number of people that came on early and others got subbed off early. What is the gap like now, Mills, between our first 9 and 10 and our second, with Finlay Christie and Damien McKenzie both coming off?
Oh, look, I think it's probably sort of created an opportunity now for our 9 and 10 to be really solid, isn't it? It's Aaron Smith and your Richie Mo'ungas. I mean,
you wouldn't want those two to get injured, though, would you?
Mills, we knew before this game who our starting 9 and 10 were.
Yeah.
We knew
but
well before this game.
How big is the gap now between the one sitting on the bench?
I don't think, just before Mills goes again, I don't think you can judge our 9 and 10 on this performance when the forward pack itself was vastly different. Like, it's different when you're playing behind the number 1 forward pack. This wasn't the number 1 forward pack. I think what we can settle on is that if we have to write our starting team down now, we 100% know who that is to play France if they're fit and available.
They've got no concerns.
No, I also think the 9 and 10 that are coming off the bench brings something totally different to the ones that are staying, and it's Richie and obviously Aaron Smith. You know, when you have a Christie come on, even a Roygaard in certain ways. So the makeup now becomes a little bit different in terms of what they bring off the bench, which is I think it'll give Ian Foster some comfort in there.
I don't think you'll ever see Richie Mo'unga subbed. Not, you know how those rotations happened before, and he came off and went on. I don't think he will be subbed.
Disagree.
I think we've seen already the changes, and they've made it one of the
totally
test
disagree.
matches. You can disagree with it as much as you like.
So I'll tell you why I disagree. So, did anyone hinder their chances? I think Sean Stevenson, like you mentioned before, I think he's going to be an All Black in the future. I don't think he gets on the plane. Finlay Christie, I think, is under pressure. I love the man. Obviously, he's Blues. He goes hard, tackles. But is he under pressure for Webber? Right, don't know.
And I think play behind the number 1 forward pack. How often has he played?
No. Yeah, I get it. I'm not arguing. I'm just putting the facts out. So The other thing is, Damien McKenzie probably had his quietest game at 10, but you also got to remember, you guys just spoke before about Richie Mo'unga getting the keys to the car, but he had a few games like that early in the piece. This guy's come back, being a specialist fullback, is coming into an international first five. Yesterday was great for him because he actually got a bit rattled, his kicks weren't going in the right places, he was under a bit of pressure, but he stayed out there and he actually started to come right in the second half. So that'll be good for him. He's on the plane. And if he shows a little bit of form in the World Cup, which he will, you bring him on 10 minutes in a game against Italy for Richie Mo'unga, he's going to change it up.
You could bring him on at fullback to get that, though. You can get that shift there. They've shown their willingness to...
We're not taking him as a fullback. Remember, we discussed this last night.
He can play fullback at the international level and he'll have the same impact there as he could at 10.
We cannot take him as a fullback. He's got to come on because he changes the game up.
It's an option.
He changes the game up, right?
I think
comes on, runs across the field.
The most noticeable thing about the two styles is, that the whole team has actually adapted to it, right? Back in yesteryear, they would have gone, man, this is all over the place, and we would have lost that test, given how sort of erratic it became. I mean, he's still quality, the things that he does. Look at those breaks that he made on the back,
But Mills, last night, when he started playing what I call that sort of league standoff, which I love because the defence doesn't see it, he wasn't playing with the Chiefs, and he hasn't played for a while. So, against Argentina, he'd accelerate across field, someone would cut. Yesterday, they weren't cutting. Those little things that really create those moments. But... he'll go away after yesterday and go, wow, team was under pressure, we're going backwards, I learnt from it, how can I get better? And I'll get better.
You had your say on Finlay Christie. I just want to ask you two, do you trust him in the big moments or would you rather have Brad Weber?
I'd take Finlay Christie now. I think that win would give... if they had lost, it possibly would have given him another. So, well, hey, here's what he hasn't had any good service. When he came on against the Springboks, he was actually quite good. He needed to be able to. Again, yesterday, same thing. I think
they're different players. They're different players. Brad Weber's Aaron Smith. He plays that style of game. Finlay Christie is he's a more physical. You look at him defensively as well. He's a more combative player. I think they're different players. So I think they've got their three halfbacks. I think Cam Roigard is going to make this squad.
I'm chuckling already because I know what we're going to. We always look forward to Eddie Jones's press conferences. Well, Jeff, he had the privilege of chatting to Eddie Jones after this one.
Eddie, I know you hate to lose, but in terms of taking a step forward, was that the performance you were looking for? And did you learn more about that group tonight?
Well, that's Bledisloe Cup rugby, isn't it? You got to go to the last minute of the game. Look, I thought we played exceptionally well the first 40 minutes, put ourselves in a position to win a game. But these clowns over here, mate, I'm going to go over and have a chat to them because they're not good supporters, mate, and they should behave a bit better than that, which is quite disrespectful. It's disappointing because Dunedin's a good rugby city and you shouldn't have clowns like that behaving like that. But we haven't got the capacity to keep doing it for long periods, and that's our problem. So we've got to develop that quickly. Whether it's a mental or physical, it's probably a bit of both. We know that. But certainly we've got a game good enough to trouble anyone in the world.
They're not reflective of us, Eddie, in terms of we have so much respect for you and your side, and I think you see that between these two teams. This team took a step up, though, and the way you wanted to play, particularly inexperienced players, you must feel good about where you can move to from here.
Well, you never feel good after a loss, mate. I tell you never feel good after a loss. Players are hurting. I feel terrible. But we are improving. We are a team with plenty of potential and talent, but we've got to be able to do it for longer. Test match rugby is about 80 minutes, and you've got to keep doing it. Got to keep doing the hard things. And congratulations, New Zealand. They kept going. They kept contesting hard, and they got the result.
You're going to keep working hard. Thanks for joining us after a game which is a difficult result, but we look forward to seeing you at the Rugby World Cup.
Thanks, mate. Thanks very much. Cheers.
Oh, he's always good. I want to know, who are the clowns? Who are the clowns Eddie's talking about there?
I can tell you that was awkward. When you're asking one question, all of a sudden, I didn't really want to look behind me, but clearly there was some fans who were doing something which were maybe a little bit disrespectful, which I don't like and appreciate. Made my job really, really hard going, maybe this is a one-question interview where I'm in and out. Look, you can tell he's disappointed, but I think the biggest thing for Eddie is his challenge was selection coming into the season, was knowing his players, understanding his players and what he's got. I think now with some of the talent he's discovered, he's starting to commit to, I think they're dangerous. You've mentioned it, Mills, on a number of occasions. You think for where they are on their side of the draw, and what I saw out of some guys, Angus Bell, I think is a really good loose head prop. Tom Hooper, which you had a chat to a little bit later on the night, really respectful, classy young man.
Discussing red wine, actually.
Discussing red wine?
Well, he wanted to talk about tackling. I had no idea what he was talking about there.
Well, he does plenty of that.
No, I thought he was really, really solid. I thought, you know, I felt sorry for Gordon. I was so happy he missed that kick, but that was a big kick, right?
Carter Gordon.
So Carter Gordon's kick was big, but this guy has been epic. There's few guys that have stood up on the side. When Eddie says they're getting better, I think there's 3 or 4 world-class players right now that are stepping up for them. And for me, they'll be the guys that need to continue to step up in the World Cup.
Look how much they've improved in 1 week, right? In terms of where they're at and what's still to come. It's a long time over there to get your game together. So they've still got plenty of time to keep building. But one thing is that we're seeing is that connection. We're talking about our 9 and 10s. You know, he hasn't had the luxury. He's had a captain that's been out. They've used 4 captains this year. You know, so he doesn't have that luxury. So he's still trying to find that combination. But one thing for me is like Bell's starting to step up. We haven't seen that from him before. His open game, but also Carter Gordon, the youngster. You know, he's young. He's starting to attack the line. So the more they grow in the next few sort of weeks, they'll be a big threat, considering the side of the draw they're on.
I'll just say, we always talk about combinations, and all of a sudden Fraser right at 7, Fetcher, genuine Fetcher, Valentini carrying the ball, and then they had Hooper pretty much doing everything else. You've got to love that those 3 together. It looked really good.
We said in the pre-match that, you know, that Valentini is only half the player because his front 5 aren't going forward. But then yesterday they were going forward and he was coming off the back of the scrum, Mills. And so if they can get their game complete, and front row is their problem. I mean, they got pumped in the second half, but they lost another couple of props. In fact, I don't know why he came back on. It must have been HIA, but no one said anything. But, you know, if they don't sort their front 5 out, he's still going to have a long tournament. But they're getting better.
You talk about them being on the easy side of the draw, but in their pool, they've still got Fiji and Wales. Wales just beat England. Fiji just beat Japan. Can they make it out of their pool? Are you confident that they will be 1 or 2?
I'm confident they will. I think the Wallabies will come out. Fiji's going to be the big one for me, you know. And do they pick up the second one over Wales? I mean, I know the Wales have but they're still finding a few issues. It makes that Wales side. So I think the Wallabies will go through.
Wales may have won on the weekend. I read nothing into those results for those teams that are playing their first game in a long, long time. We'll talk about those a little bit later on. But yeah, they get out of their pool. It's Fiji, I think, they get out of their pool as well. I think it's Wales who are under threat. Fiji were really, really good last night for the second half I watched. They were amazing.
Just on Australia, they're naming their Rugby World Cup squad on Thursday. They've used 4 captains. Who is their captain for the World Cup? Do they keep Tate McDermott or do they go somewhere else? You liked him, JK?
Yeah, I think they keep him. I think what Eddie traditionally does, he very quickly gets rid of the players he doesn't like or trust. No opinion on whether he's right or not. And then very quickly he settles on his leadership group and he plays them, and he plays them, and he plays them. And I think he'll stick with them for sure.
I agree, absolutely. I thought he showed great leadership, great composure. I like some of the impact they had off the bench. I think they got that selection right. All of a sudden, Will Skelton, just for 25 or 30, he can have a bigger impact for them.
Well, the Rugby World Cup, as we know, is just under a month away now. So we're going to look at how all the international teams stack up. There were all these friendlies happening all over the world on the weekend.
For South Africa, Esther Hayes into the buck with the cross kick. Moody's in position. Caden Moody's in.
Wales just being reminded they have a penalty advantage. Kostler, the attempt at the cross kick. There's Aaron Wainwright. Wainwright gets it away. There's Morgan. Morgan, he's got men around it. He maybe doesn't need them. It's on to Davis. And Wales get the first run.
After a second shot. Getting the second shot. Finn Russell for Darcy Graham. Is this going to bounce for Scotland?
Absolutely epic. And it doesn't matter that it's a France second team.
No mai, Hoki mai, welcome back into the breakdown. Well, there were Rugby World Cup warm-up matches all over the world. So who is in form and who's not? And how does the North and South compare, JK? Ask anyone from the North, they say their competition is hands down better. But what about the Rugby Championship?
I think they're way closer, so things are closer from north to south. I just want to get back to the Fiji versus Wales in the pool game. It's going to come down to who refs, because, and I'm not talking about competency, I'm just talking about style. Wayne Barnes, one of our best referees, and he is, but he refs a little bit different to a Southern Hemisphere ref. It's just a little bit different. You know, he can be a bit more on the ground, lets a couple of things go that we don't let go in the Southern Hemisphere. So I think those little things are going to be important. Once again, it's not about competency, it's just about style. So if Fiji get a Southern Hemisphere ref, it's going to be easier for them because they're used to playing like that. So for me, the both hemispheres are really, really close. I think, you know, Ireland will be coming in with pressure. England, no one knows where they are. Like, who knows? Who knows? And that's probably good for them. So the styles are way closer, but we still do have a different style.
Well, some of these games, Mills, are important for some of these teams. So for a team like Scotland to experience a win against France is important. It wasn't a full-strength France side, though. The French had 2 or 3 of their key decision makers and playmakers not playing in this game. So when I look at the balance of these results, particularly over the next few weeks and as they start playing each other, it'll be about when you see the #1 squads going out there. But if you are Scotland, you're looking at getting this result and going, OK, we are winning. We're on top of our game. We're getting confidence into a game, remembering that their challenge is South Africa and Ireland. That's what they've got in their pool. So every moment they have like this is great for them. For other teams, it doesn't matter. Ireland win at full strength, got the job done. Italy did come back at them in the second half, though. So once again, it'll be a week-by-week proposition.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think they're coming into it's like a pre-season sort of mode. So they're just starting to, once they start getting their teams together, you'll see a lot more consistency in terms of where they are. But it's totally different preparation compared to what the Southern Hemisphere teams are facing, right? At the moment, we're really trying to ramp things up to build up. They're probably a little bit conservative in terms of coming into the Rugby World Cup, which is a little bit different. Confidence, you're right. Confidence for the Scottish, for the Wales as well.
Well, so what do you reckon's better, Mills? Because I keep hearing this from the Southern Hemisphere. We're going in a bit tired and they're going in fresh. But I think I'd rather come in off a hard competition.
Yeah, we were playing for trophies.
Yeah,
we played for the Bledisloe Cup, we played for the Rugby Championship, the Freedom Cup. I think for me, I look at that as being, I suppose when I say better preparation, we're probably a bit more advanced than their preparation. It's a matter of where and remembering, I think up until last night, we'd been really lucky, Kirsty, hadn't we, in regards to injuries. The fact we'd be able to rotate players in and out, give them guys some opportunities. Some players had a week off. 9 of our starters had a week off, and so they'll now prepare for the naming tomorrow and then a test match.
If we're honest, though, the world's best teams right now are in the North, Ireland and France, who we're going to come up against potentially in the quarterfinals. Ireland.
Why are we saying that?
Well, if you look at the world rankings
we're
right now,
number 2, aren't we? Aren't we?
Number 2?
We're number 2 now.
Okay, well, the best team in the world right now is France. So you're telling us that these test matches have prepared us to play those teams?
Totally. Kirst, I think that, like, have you ever done that, Mills? Like, have you ever, like, gone into it off a hard season? Because I never have.
Yeah.
Is it better because you're hardened, or?
I almost think it's the other way, because when you're in these hard matches, where do you taper off? You know, at what point do you taper off when you go to the World Cup during your pool games? Because while you're ramping things up over there, you know, quietly coming into it and getting, it's like, you know, Super Rugby, okay? Yeah, teams that sort of come through by the end of the season, they're ready to go, right? We're coming in it, we have hard matches, then we have another one, then we sort of go into a test match where mentally, you know, we could probably, you know, turn off a little bit. And I think that makes it a little bit harder for us.
If we're being realistic, we've got this warm-up game in Twickenham against the Springboks, where this really, yes, you'd love to win. It'd be interesting the attitude they take into that. But ultimately, you're then looking at a game against France and then a quarter-final. You know, I'm not taking for granted we beat Italy. We would expect to beat Italy, though. But we will play a strong side against Italy, probably our best team. You're really just talking about 5 games over the next 3 months.
Hope they play well, because otherwise my wife won't talk to me for a week.
That's not probably the only reason.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I look at that over 3 months. We're talking 5 games. Yeah. So I don't think a conditioning's going to be an issue. We look sharp, right?
I think Mills is right. It's tapering now. As coaches, and I've been to a couple of World Cup, you get, you know, you want to keep training. Yeah. You want to keep at them, and I think freshening them up. I think the All Blacks get a week off next week. I think the Twickenham game is really, really interesting, because do you actually play the team that's going to play, because they get 2 weeks off. They're going to the Adidas factory. You play your best team again, because yesterday was a bit clunky, and go in with a bit of momentum. It's intriguing.
The Adidas factory is a high-performance unit. They're not just going shopping.
Yeah, well, they are, according to Mills.
Oh, yeah.
That's what they're doing, they're shopping.
Oh, yeah, well, back then they used to.
Well, these All Blacks that were picked in the Rugby Championship squad, they may be resting for the next week, but there's plenty of fringe All Blacks in action in the NPC.
Tries once more, penal factor, second receiver, Gridley, Bereniki, Tekoi, Solomon!
Here is Brunt with the ball in hand, flicks it on quickly, Vahai looking to get around the outside, and she'll finish with class.
7-point margin as Hotham chips a nice ball over the top of the space. Springer is tearing after it!
As they bring it in through Tawaraisa. Strong ball carrier, gets the offload away. That's what you want. You want to be running off each other's shoulders.
Lovely hole, and the man on debut's heading for the line. He's going to get there. As Orkney moving through the hands, that's open.
Here's a real flyer, speaking of Angelica Mekimeku Vahai, a little way, in and away. First touch for her.
Rockbender, shot ball, Umaga Jensen. Finally they find a hole.
Yes, there's plenty of classy operators in action in provincial rugby right now, but you cannot go past the Tasman Mako, who had David Havili at their service for 40 golden minutes. Jeff, is this guy on the plane to the Rugby World Cup? He's had a hamstring injury for the last 9 weeks, and he didn't look like he missed a beat.
Well, he's in a hell of a team, isn't he? I mean, Tasman are stacked, and I think that helped his comeback. The fact they looked really sharp, he looked sharp. Although the thing about David Havili is the fact that I know he's got a great work ethic, and when he does come back and return from injury, because he's had to do it a lot, it's there. And I looked at this and said this was the perfect reintroduction for him. I think he's done enough just to show he's healthy, he's fit. They've invested in time over the last couple of years. Just nice to see him back out there.
Yeah.
He should feel comfortable tomorrow for a team naming, but you're never comfortable when those moments come around.
Oh, he's here all day for me.
Yeah.
You know, regardless, I think it's a conversation about, hey, just getting yourself right back and playing, you know, to get some confidence back in your body. And look what he does. He's gone out there and sort of delivered. So he was always on my list. He's just a class player in terms of what he brings. His skill set's outstanding in terms of kicking and passing, but also the physical stuff that he's really built around his game over the last couple of years, JK.
Yeah, nothing to add. Just that probably look quite a lot into why he only played 40 minutes. For me, he's in.
He's in.
So they would said, get through, get out there, make your tackles. He made some beautiful, sharp angles early. I think he's one of those leaders. And guess what? Covers fullback.
Yes, and play everywhere.
So is Stephen Perofeta clearly our fourth first five? Is
This
he
year?
clearly for this? If we needed someone to come into this squad, given he's been there last year,
100%.
It's him, right?
Totally.
I don't see another option in that position.
Totally. There's going to be guys that would be going to the World Cup in any other country that are going to be home. He's one of them, right? And I think he's going to be a big part of the future.
Yeah.
There's also guys like Hoskins Sotutu, Akira Ioane. You know, there's guys that are home, Patrick Tupolotu, that might not make the side, that need to stay fit and play well because they could be on a plane next week after.
We continually talk about 2011. What we ended up getting, it was Stephen Donald in the final of a Rugby World Cup. For me, Stephen Perofeta is the guy that we just need to make sure is continuing to play and is getting the feedback he
Playing
needs.
fullback for Taranaki.
Yeah,
not
but
the first five.
for him, yeah, and I get that and understand that. That's what they need, but I don't see an issue with that for me. His balance, his understanding of the game, he's a real talent. He really is. You know,
I do see an issue for it, only because what happened to Damien yesterday, how long it takes first fives now to mature to that. The intensity of that test match, I'd rather him playing 10 if he is our backup
yes.
10.
It would be preferable, but as long as he's out there, I'm happy.
Now, we'll just brush over the fact that Auckland beat Bay of Plenty just, so congratulations, JK. Time to move on. Time to move on. Don't go anywhere, because after the break, these three get their selection hats on. Yes, Ian Foster, Jason Ryan and Joe Schmidt went to the Octagon last night for their selectors meeting. Well, Well, tomorrow it is make or break for the best rugby players around the country. 33 names we read out just after 5 o'clock. We will have the announcement live on the Breakdown. It is a Monday Breakdown special between 5 and 6 p.m. We'll have the team, the full reaction and interviews live from the Hawke's Bay as well. Before we go into the selection meeting, are we going to argue here?
Yeah, because I'm still really, really disappointed with both of these colleagues of mine. Like, Mills was shocking at times. He took
How late was he to the meeting?
Yeah, he was late to the meeting, firstly. Secondly, he came in with cards and he wasn't showing anyone. But as soon as we said, you're Jason Ryan, he just cut me as the backs guy. Like,
Jason Ryan's cool.
Let's do 2013
instead
of 1914.
He was going to be Foster, mate. I was siding, trying to get my selections in.
The first thing he said is, I've got the final say, so...
I did say that, to be fair. I'm not going to lie to you.
So this team that we're about to see is Jeff's team.
No, it's not my team.
No, he won a few.
Not much.
We did decide that we're going to agree to disagree and commit.
Okay.
I don't think you did even decide. You did.
I'm probably not going to, but anyway.
Let's take a look at some of the highlights. This is the Breakdown's 33-man Rugby World Cup squad, potentially to be named tomorrow. The hookers, no surprises there, really. Props, these guys have picked 5 props, not 6. Tamaiti Williams does make the cut, and as well, Fletcher Newell. No Joe Moody and no Nepo Lalala in that mix. There are 4 locks. Have you gone 4 locks, not 5 locks?
No, there's been a late addition because of the information that's come out today around...
Josh Lord's added.
We've brought Josh Lord into that conversation. Actually,
Hey,
you brought Josh Lord in.
That was why I was sitting up in my room, because I knew there possibly could be an injury, and I had him in there. You kicked him back out.
So Josh Lord goes, so you've got 5
But it wasn't
locks.
a competition, Mills. You had to share that as soon as you got down to the meeting. Yeah, but you don't keep that into like it's...
I wanted to tell you the rationale behind it, because I know as soon as I said it, you guys wouldn't listen. And so,
We're listening now. Go on.
Well, I had him because I thought, Brodie Retallick might be injured. And as it has happened, he is.
I mean, one of the things going into it when we sat down is whether or not the balance was going to be 19-14 versus 18-15. And I think this injury to Brodie Retallick might have changed that balance. Yeah. The fact all of a sudden they feel as though they're going to need more cover for him. So, look, I think Sammy Penny-Finau played his way into that.
No Ethan Blackadder.
Oh, Ethan Blackadder's injured again.
So you're just not considering him?
We considered him, whether or not we felt he'd be right. But I go and look at the balance of what else we had, JK. I think this is what they may take. This is the squad I would look at and go, these are the guys who have performed, and they've trusted. And, I think in terms of that forward pack, I'm really comfortable we're going to get everything covered. It was always going to be hard on one prop if you only took 5. Yeah. And it's Nepo Lalala. And like I say, this is our team. This is not the side that they're selecting, but we feel as though with enough versatility...
Well, mainly your team.
No.
We have got versatility in there.
Versatility.
And the locking and also the loosies, Barrett's amazing in terms of sort of Scott Barrett in terms of where he's seen us a lot, but he also can play 6. Frizzell and Finau, you said it before, JK, both similar players. They can even go into sort of that locking. So Jacobson sort of probably covers that number 8. That was a big discussion point yesterday. Who covers that number 8? Yeah. After sort of Artie, but also Sam Cane can do it too.
Yeah, but we did decide that you've got to start thinking about guys that will have to play in the final. So we had that discussion, didn't we? Yep. If 2 6s got injured, are you happy with Jacobson playing 6 or Papali playing 6 and Kane 7? And the answer was yes. Right. So the guys that you take to the World Cup, they might have to play in the final, so they need to be up for it.
OK, well, that's your forward pack. Now, let's take a look at the backs that you've selected for the Rugby World Cup. Halfbacks, you've gone for the 3 that are already in there. No Brad Weber, he hasn't made it this time around. You've picked 2 first 5s. Beauden Barrett's been selected as an outside back. 5 outside backs there, and Moni Narua does make the cut, even though he's got that back injury at the moment. So does Mark Talia and Lester Whainganuku. That's no Caleb Clark and no Sean Stevenson. Those are the guys you've left behind. And in the midfield, Dallas McLeod and Braden Ennor haven't made it, and David Havili is straight back in there.
Yeah, like we said, we're comfortable where Finlay Christie has been at and what he's done. David Havili on the back of playing this last weekend. The one around Amoni Narawa, though, the Amoni Narawa one, was the fact that he was running and training and was part of some contact last week. So once I learnt that affected the way I looked at it. But, Mills, you've still got room maybe about Dallas McLeod in the conversation.
I liked what Dallas brought yesterday in the afternoon, and perhaps they might not go with 5 outsides.
Is he coming in for then?
I think one of the outsides. It's got to be an outside back with its.
So who would be missing out?
No one.
Yeah, exactly. So we can't make it because I'm taking 34.
I don't
want to be a selector.
This is where I got to. I had to take control of the situation. Come on, have the last word because you want it. Because you had it last night as well.
The biggest when you go down the list of people that are missing out, Weber, Blackadder, Ioane, Satutu, Tupolotu, Joe Moody, Laulala, in the backs for me, Caleb Clark is the saddest one.
Really
and
sad.
so, like for me,
If this does
I was
happen.
quite emotional about it as well because, you know, he's been playing. You're going to take a guy that hasn't played, Mills, who's been a little bit injured, and that would really, really hurt. So we're trying to, I was trying to get him in there.
Who's that you're talking about that hasn't played?
Caleb Clark.
Caleb's played.
No, we put Narawa in there for him.
Well, Narawa played that first game in
Yeah, but he's been injured since, and Caleb's had a couple of games. So that's the hardest one. I'm not saying, like, you know, it's just hard.
It's challenging, and it's not our job. It's their job tomorrow night.
Well, it was your job last night, and all three of you've walked out friends after this.
Absolutely.
The silence
right,
says it
absolutely.
all. The silence says it all. Tomorrow night, 5 p.m, live on The Breakdown, a very, very special breakdown show, a special announcement, the 33 players that will represent the All Blacks at the Rugby World Cup. It's going to be interesting to see these injuries. Brodie Retallick, Braden Ennor, who makes it, who doesn't. We'll see you tomorrow night.
Every 4 years, the chosen few get a chance to become world champions. On Monday, we'll see who will represent the third. For some, this World Cup stage will be their first.
This guy is a freak.
For others, their last.
Is this the greatest ever era